Good morning, good afternoon or good evening, wherever you might be watching. Welcome to Excel for Absolute Beginners, Part 6, Tables. You may well have heard the word tables as a beginner in Excel and wondered what they are, how you can create them and what advantages do they have. Here we have a set of data, just some simple information about a group of salespeople. Remember that you may have hundreds of these records or maybe even thousands, and by using tables you can very easily find that the analysis of data is much easier. As we move through the learning curve, we'll use the same procedure that we have in the previous 5 exercises. That is, as we check each of these learning curves, we will simply put a tick next to them to show that they've been done. So we'll look at the advantages of tables. The main advantage of a table is that it can be filtered. That is, we will only see what we want to see and not see what we don't want to see. The second advantage of a table is that we can sort very easily. So they're the advantages of tables, particularly for large spreadsheets. Now let's go back to our checklist and we'll look at what we need to do before we actually convert data to a table. So we need to always remember the golden rule of all computing: select then do. Next, we must avoid, wherever possible, blank columns or rows, and we'll see why shortly. We need to make sure that the data is consistent in the columns. That is, if you have a column with dates in it, as this one does, make sure that you suddenly don't come across the word cat, as it were. And then column headings are required, as per the example here. To create the table is very simple. We click in any cell in the data and then we choose Insert, Table, and up pops a little window, Create Table. Where is the data for your table? And Excel has guessed that it's within these bounds here, within the scrolling marquee. Some people call them marching ants. And you'll notice that it has stopped at the first blank column and the first blank row. That is why we avoid blank columns or rows, because otherwise Excel will stop its guess where it finds a blank row or column. And lastly, by default, there is a tick in My Table Has Headers. Make sure that that tick is there and that you do have these headers for your data and table. Now when we click OK, Excel creates a set of banded rows to make the viewing of the data more easy, and we now have a table. It's a table because I see above here the filter arrows next to each of the column headings, and we'll see how they work very shortly. But back to our checklist. We've created the table and now we want to add a row for new data. And you might say, well gosh, that's got to be very simple. I would simply need to click down here on this cell, start typing, and away I go. But there is a better mousetrap. Always make sure that you click in the bottom rightmost cell in the table. Don't press enter because that will purely take you down a cell, but if you press the tab key on the keyboard, it creates a new banded row for you into which you can enter more data. So we're going to add one more set of information. Our good friend Percy, his sales we'll say were 27. He was born on the 23rd of April 1966. He works in the we'll say the western area, and his salary is 29,500. To move between the 29,500. To move between the cells, all I did was press the tab key. Now I'm finished with the table for the time being, so I'll press enter. That takes me out of it. So adding a new row, very simple. It's automatically color banded for you. So we'll go back to our checklist, add a row. Now sorting back in the table could not be easier. I'm going to sort the salespeople for analysis purposes from A to Z, and that is exactly what it has done. Now I'll sort them Z to A, so I simply choose what I want to do. Excel automatically identifies the type of information in the column. So the birthdays, let's say I wanted to find out who was the oldest person. I'll sort oldest to newest. It's not Z to A anymore, or A to Z. So what I'm going to do here is click oldest to newest, and it is sorted. Percy's number 1, Shelley is the youngest. So sorting, very, very easy, very simple. Now we can go back to our checklist, sorting, and now filters, a very important feature within tables, the main reason that we actually create tables. As the sales manager, for example, I want to analyze the data in the areas, and what I want to see are the sales in the northern area and the western area. I don't want to see the south or the east, so I'm going to say area, and I'm going to untick select all and just put a tick in north and east, and when I click OK, it has filtered out the south and the west very, very easily. Now all I need to do now is to go back to where I was, is to click on that button and clear the filter from area, and it puts everything back where it was. So the filters are excellent. Let's say I wanted to look at the salaries, and I only want to see those people who earn more than 38,000. I'll click on the filter, and this time number filters, greater than 38,000. Let's see who pops up. There we are. They're the only people. There are a couple there that didn't appear. So now I'm going to click on salaries and clear the filter in the salaries, having done my analysis, and we're back to where we were in the step before. So back to the checklist, filters we can tick, and now we'll look at using statistics in tables. This one here. Back to our table. If I click in a cell below numbers in a cell but outside the table, remember that this is not a table row, if I click in that cell and choose the auto sum button, it adds up all of those numbers for me. It also puts a drop arrow next to the number where I can use other statistical functions. So here it's worked out the average salary for me. It's going to count the number of salaries. There are 7. What's the highest salary? Max, 54,000. Sue. So you can see that if you had many entries in your table data, that finding out those sort of things would be very, very time consuming and more than likely prone to mistakes. Now I'm just going to delete that particular cell there, and what I wanted to show you was, because there are numbers in this column as well, if I click in that cell and hold down the control key, because I want to add up the unit sales as well as the salaries, and then click the auto sum button up here, it adds up both of those at the one time. Now I can choose the average sale, 28. Now I can choose the maximum salary, etc, etc. So remember, all I did there was select, then do. I selected the cells that I wanted to use. So ladies and gentlemen, there's a run through on the advantages of tables. If you have lots of data, think about converting that data to a table. Remember, the concept was simply to click in a cell in the data, then choose insert table, and the drop arrows, the filter buttons here will be added for you, and the advantages of things that you can do elsewhere in cells within the table, or in this case just outside the table, will be made available to you. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, when you will be automatically notified of further uploads in the series Excel for Absolute Beginners. Again, thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye for now.